Welcome to the Greg Bennett Show. I'm your host, Greg Bennett, and today I have a wonderful conversation with Gustav Iden. In this episode, Gustav describes the impact of winning the Ironman 70.3 world title had on his life, and he shares an incredible story about wearing a Taiwanese hat that he'd found on the side of the road in Japan to victory at the 70.3 Ironman World Championships, and how that event went viral in Taiwan and had such a huge influence on him signing with Taiwanese bike company Giant Bikes because of it. It really is a remarkable story. Gustav also describes the fact that he's a naturally confident guy, but hopes it doesn't come across as arrogance. And the fact that his VO2 max has been tested at 92, which is one of the biggest scores in history. Consider the fact that an average man has a VO2 max of around 60, and it's no surprise that Gustav can deliver so much oxygen to his body. We discuss the Challenge Daytona event in detail, and Gustav shares the importance of winning Challenge Daytona to let his fans and sponsors know that Ironman 70.3 in 2019 wasn't just a one-hit wonder and it wasn't a fluke. So many great stories in this one. Now, before we go on, if you're enjoying the show, please share and subscribe. You'd be doing me a huge favor. And if you listen on Apple Podcasts, I'd love a review on there. That would really help me out and get it out to more people as well. Thanks for all the feedback. I'm striving to make this show better for you guys and give you a great show. So thank you again for listening. And remember, success comes to those who endure just one moment longer. I'm so grateful for the continued support of the show from these incredible sponsors. You really do need to have these products in your life. Personally, I use each of them daily. Athletic Greens nutritional beverage, Hyperice recovery tools, and the glutathione supplement Continual G. What I love about Athletic Greens is its simplicity. It's delivered straight to your door and it takes seconds to mix with water. It tastes great and goes down easy. And I know I'm getting the most comprehensive nutritional beverage on the planet in one quick drink. If you're looking for one product that has as much high quality nutrients in it as possible, then you want to consider Athletic Greens. Athletic Greens is more than just a multivitamin and multimineral. It takes it to the next level, adding a daily dose of superfoods, probiotics, greens blend, and more to support the gut health, energy, immunity, and stress. And right now, Athletic Greens is giving you, my audience, a special offer on top of their all-in-one formula. You'll receive 1 year supply of vitamin D and 5 travel packs for free with your first purchase for additional immune support. Many of the population are vitamin D deficient, including myself. I focus heavily in getting in the sun throughout the day, but when I can't, I religiously supplement with vitamin D. Adding vitamin D to your daily routine is just a great way to support vitamin D production. So if you're looking to get more out of your multivitamin and invest in your immunity, energy, and gut health, then you'll struggle to find anything more comprehensive than Athletic Greens. Take ownership of your health today and receive comprehensive nutritional insurance, a free year supply of vitamin D, and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase by visiting athleticgreens.com/Greg. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/Greg. Now, you'll hear me mention Normatec and Hypervolt from Hyperice in several of the conversations with my guests in this show. Many of my guests and I are using these recovery tools religiously. You really must have them in your house. Sit in a pair of Normatec boots at the end of a long day. Use the Hypervolt percussion massage device to warm up muscles and loosen hot spots before working out, or anytime you have a niggling injury. They're just so easy and they're so quick, and they work. Their vibrating foam rollers, thermal technology, and Normatec compression systems just help you warm up faster, recover quicker, and simply move better. Seriously, these products are the perfect Christmas gift for any family member or good friend. Get $50 off all percussion devices now, no code needed, and get an additional 10% off with code GREG10 at hyperice.com. That's hyperice.com, HYPERICE.com, and use code GREG10 for 10% off. I have a web address for all of my listeners who already know that 1, the human body makes the most powerful antioxidants on earth. 2, the master antioxidant your body cells make is called glutathione, and the human body needs glutathione to live. 3, the reason I'm addressing a select group of listeners with this web address is that once you see what these scientists in my hometown, Sydney, have accomplished, it'll blow your mind. Go check out continualg.com. Continualg.com. That's CONTINUALG.com. Check it out and let them know that I told you about it. All right, today's guest is spearheading the next generation of superstar triathletes. At 24, he's already won the Ironman 70.3 World Championships and more recently, the Challenge Daytona PTO Championships. Both events had two of the greatest fields ever established in the world of triathlon. And both events, he put on display that indicates that the next generation are here and they're taking the sport further than any of us thought possible. He's part of the Norwegian clan that are taking the world by storm, alongside his training partners, 2019 World Championship Grand Final winner, Khristian Blumenfeld, and World Triathlon Series podium finisher, Casper Stornes. It's exciting to watch this new generation in the sport of triathlon continue to summit new heights. It's a real privilege to have the man of the hour on the show. So welcome, and thank you for joining me on the Greg Bennett Show. Gustav Iden, how are you, mate?
Wow, what an introduction. First off, yeah, that was amazing. It's good to hear. It's good to hear something about myself. So I'm loving that introduction. Yeah, I'm good. And you?
Good, very good. Have you come down since your performance the other week?
Yes, actually, I have come down quite a bit because I've been locked up in quarantine back home in Norway. And it's basically nothing to do. No one wants to celebrate me, so I've been stuck at home in my own thoughts and some home gym and some running outside, but mostly very quiet.
Oh, that's a bit average, isn't it? So no big parties or celebrations.
No, yeah. It was a big difference. Nice last year, then it was a huge celebration with the whole team Norway who was down there and the award ceremonies and everything. But now in Daytona, I was alone in my hotel room, and yeah, it was a bit kind of sad, but also nice to just be by myself.
I know. Well, you can really let it sink in. I mean, yeah. I think all of us were starved this year for a championship style event. We had the WTS World Championships in Hamburg, but that also had no crowds or anything. At least Daytona, we had a little bit of crowds and things. You've done all of these events. I mean, this last 5 to 6 months, you've actually been able to get out. Well, not 5 to 6 months, probably 3 to 4 months. You've been able to get out and do a number of events. Do you think that was a big help getting ready for Daytona, that you had a little race experience under your belt?
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, it's not the same distance or same type of event, but every race is it gets you better for the next event, no matter if it's similar or not. So I have been so lucky to be able to race actually quite a lot this year. And in the start, I just raced whatever I could. I did some local 5Ks here back in Norway. And when I first started up with the World Series or the World Championship in Hamburg, since then it's been some races. So I've been managed to get something out of this strange year.
Yeah, but you've been really consistent, actually. I mean, you've had a lot of those sort of top 10. I think you were 11th at Hamburg, which was an outstanding performance when how close the field was in Hamburg. But you've been there or thereabouts. And then coming into this race in Challenge Daytona, was there uncertainty still in your mind that it would go ahead, or were you just training full steam ahead, believing it would happen?
Yeah, for sure. I was quite uncertain if it would happen or not. So I had my doubts until maybe 2 weeks from it. And then I saw everything that have built up around it and how certain the PTO was that was going to go ahead. So then I was okay, now it's time to order my flight tickets because I didn't want to order them too early and then have to cancel them again. So I guess 2 weeks before then I was 100% certain that it would take part.
Where were you training? Where were you preparing the final steps?
So after the World Cup in Valencia, end of November, I got back home to Norway and I had to take a 10 days quarantine since I was in Spain. So 3 weeks out from the race, I had not swam for almost 2 weeks.
Oh, jeez.
So, but I was deciding on should I just stay in Spain and train there and then travel straight to the US? But then I have to get my TT bike down there, or should I just get home, just take my quarantine, just accept that my swim will be lacking, or should I go somewhere else? So Khristian actually went to Bahrain to train. He went 1 day back home and then went down his TT bike, and I was like, should I go with him or should I not? But I think it was okay to get some days back home before I went to the US.
And what was, I mean, Khristian and you are obviously pretty close. I've enjoyed some of watching the videos of you guys, and you guys really do take the piss out of each other a bit, which is a lot of fun. I mean, when you heard the news that he was pulled out of the race, was it, I mean, you guys really seem to want the best for each other. You want the challenge of beating each other, but you really do seem to want the best for each other. What was your feelings when you heard he wasn't racing Daytona?
Yeah, it wasn't that big of a news for me because obviously we talked together, so I knew he hadn't been running. He had been like sort of running uphill on a treadmill and walking and such, so I know he didn't have the legs to really compete. But when it was like officially that he didn't race in Daytona, I was really disappointed because I really wanted him to be there.
Yeah, I was sorry myself not to. I had him on the show earlier in the year, and I'm such a huge fan of all of you guys of what you're doing. But when I had him on the show, I was really rooting for him to have a strong year. So it's always disappointing when you see somebody come out with an injury. But that's kind of, as a professional athlete, you're always living on that knife's edge, and sometimes you just overstep it, and it's like right at the last minute. So that was disappointing. Now, let's move on to the actual race itself. When I looked at the races and I wanted to compare Ironman 70.3 world champs last year in Nice that had incredible climbing and technical skills needed for the descending, compared to Challenge Daytona, which I think was perfectly suited to the big, strong, powerhouse cyclists. Basically, because the power to weight doesn't matter when you're riding flat. Plus, the swim was relatively short and the run was short. So I actually thought the powerhouse, the big guys, would really get ahead on the bike. And after your exceptional 70.3 last year in Nice, what were your thoughts coming into a race that was basically a complete contrast to the one you'd won a year earlier?
Yeah, I had the same analysis as you. I thought this course was much better suited for the big long distance guys than the standard like smaller ITU runners. So I knew my chances was not as big as in Nice, because in Nice the course was basically built for me. At least that was my view of it. I had like the perfect body, or like the perfect abilities to race in Nice. So Daytona was something different. I didn't think the course was something built for me, but still the distance is really up my alley, and I thought I still could be able to perform there, even though the course wasn't like perfect for me. And even though I'm not like the biggest guy, I'm not like small either, and my aero position on the bike is actually not that bad considering I'm not spending too much time on a TT. So I knew that it is possible for me to perform here.
Yeah, I was actually surprised. I didn't think the bike did as much damage. Apart from, there were the guys that cramped and had issues, but in general, the bike times in Daytona weren't substantially different. I think Lionel Sanders was about the third fastest bike, but Sam Long, Ditlev had the fastest, but you were only sort of 2:30 behind them. There was a whole bunch of guys in that little window there. That the bike actually didn't seem to impact as much as I thought potentially it could. And what that meant to me is, look, as much as we all like to say the ITU guys know how to swim and run, I think it made it very clear that the ITU guys also know how to bike very, very well, because I think you all did incredibly well going that little bit longer and the flat. And then what it looked like to me is everybody got off the bike completely exhausted, except for yourself and probably Matt Hansen, who ran into second. How did that feel to you when you actually got off the bike and you started running?
I can tell you for one thing, I was not feeling fresh off the bike. I also had a tendency to cramp up in my glutes and lower back off the bike. So I actually think the bike was so much more brutal than it looks on TV. And the reason why the difference between the times was not that big is because it was basically, but if you lower the power output by 50%, I guess the speed output is just like 20% lower. So even though you're getting quite tired in the end and are like low on the power, you don't lose as much. And I just think that's the reason why the time difference is not that big. But if you look at power difference, and if it be like a slight uphill and something towards the end of the bike, I think you see huge difference in time.
Yeah.
But like going off the bike, I felt not good at all. And like just the T2, I had to mount my shoe or take out my shoe twice because I was cramping up so badly in my glutes that I had to walk like the first 5 steps off the bike, and I was really uncertain on how I was be able to pull this off. But then like 1K later, my body really just woke up and I felt pretty good.
I know. And then you just sort of, honestly, both you and Paula Finley, the way that you both raced, and it looked almost like a training day. You looked like you had another gear once you got going in the run. Is that how it felt?
Yeah, I didn't really have the pressure on me the last 5K, so then I slowed down a bit because it's hard to motivate yourself to really push that hard when it's not that many people up close. And the last time check I got was you're like 110 in front of the other guys. And to run harder just because you want to win by over a minute, that's kind of a strange way to motivate myself. So I didn't have like the mental toughness to really dig my deepest. So I had an extra gear if I like wanted to, but I'm glad I didn't have to.
Yeah, but you did the year before in Nice, where you almost won by 3 minutes over Alistair Brownlee, and that was your real moment where we were like, "Whoa, who is this guy and what is he about?"
Difference. Then I was just running on pure like adrenaline, and it was like people all over the course, and it was less like everyone cheering me ahead. But in Daytona, it was just me all alone around the track with like a camera car there, and it was like it's not as motivating to just run by yourself as like when you have thousands of people cheering you on.
I know you need the crowds to go that extra gear. Well, I once screwed myself up. I had a little side story of my own. Sorry if I'm boring you, but I remember Escape from Alcatraz was the big triathlon back 15, 20 years ago, and Chris McCormack had won it for many, many times. And I got there and I thought, you know what, if I get off the bike with Chris McCormack and Craig Walton, I can outrun them. I'm doing pretty well here. I got off the bike a minute in front, and rather than going, okay, you've got a minute lead, pace this run well, I had this attitude, okay, I'm going to crush him. It was this. And I ran so hard, and by the halfway turn around the run, I was up to 3 minute lead. And on the way home, I completely blew to pieces, to the point that I had to walk the final 2 or 3 kilometers, finished way, way back, completely dehydrated, had 2 IVs. My whole point of that was just how stupid I was, that I wasn't smart at all. And I think the more you get used to winning, you have those moments where it's like, no, you don't have to win by 3 minutes. You just have to win. So,
yeah.
But did you think, there was a lot of build-up leading into this race, and people were talking obviously a lot about Alistair Brownlee and Javier Gomez, and your name was mentioned, but not as much as perhaps, a Lionel Sanders and these other guys. Did you notice that yourself?
Yeah, I saw a lot of people, especially Sanders, Alistair, and Vincent was like the 3 podium candidates I saw the most. And I wasn't surprised that I was not one of them. I mean, I haven't raced too much long distance or half distance before, so even though I won Nice, I guess people just thought that it was only the course that made me win and not me as an athlete and the distance. So I am kind of understanding that they are not really bullying myself up as much, and everyone has like their own favorites. And being kind of like new to the whole long distance circus, I don't think people have me as a favorite and or as like a crowd favorite. So even though I'm kind of I'm a good athlete, I'm not like that the most popular athlete yet, but hopefully I can build it up even more in the coming years.
Well, I think that's definitely changed. I think backing up your niece, your 70.3 world champs with this performance, I think there's going to be a lot more attention going forward. It's like fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. Yeah,
Yeah.
I get that the other way around. Sorry, but the other way around, it's like, were you worried when you came out of the water and you'd lost about a minute 20, or were you actually thinking that seemed about right?
When I got out of the water, I wasn't that worried. I knew because, as I told you earlier, I had a 10 days quarantine with very limited swimming. That my swim shape was not the greatest. My swim fitness was actually quite bad. I had one good session in the pool, and the only reason that was a good session was because I was swimming with a wetsuit. So I had like no confidence in the swim in Daytona. So I knew like that was possibly what I was to expect. I, of course, hoped to be with the first group, but I was like realistic chance. I had like maybe 50-50 to be with the first group or not. So when I first got out of the water, I was not too pessimistic for being able to pull off a win. But when we started cycling, and so many people, or not too many, but some athletes amongst like Rudy, especially Rudy, he was so fast when he passed me. I had no chance to follow him. And that was when I started to get worried, because I was cycling slightly above my targeted power, which was like 330. And still he was like zooming past me so fast. And I thought that me and my coach had made a huge mistake here and like underestimated the whole thing. And I was quite worried that that even on a good day that I was not be able to finish top 10. But still, I didn't think to go over my assigned race plan, because it was no point for me to ride harder than planned and then just run much worse. So instead of trying to follow him, I just stuck with my plan and hoped that they were just overriding and I was not losing as much as I thought.
Is that what you meant? I heard you post-race said, I just race smart. I race smart. Is that one of the things you were talking about?
Yeah. So it's not smart if you run over assigned power or way harder than your abilities. So I think that was one of the reasons I managed to pull off this win.
Yeah. And when did you feel like you had it then? Was it, once you got to the lead, or was it, like you said, with 5K to go, you kind of felt like you had the win?
The first good sign on my victory was seeing that Vincent had a time penalty. So then I knew, like, okay, I don't have to run him down at least. So now, like, the podium is within reach. And then I saw Alistair by the side of the road. And I knew, okay, then I don't have to run with him. And then I only had, like, I think 20 seconds up to the leader, even though I was 1 minute behind in T2. So I had taken 40 seconds pretty early on. And I didn't feel like too bothered about the run pace. Then I knew that my chances to winning was getting bigger and bigger for every step.
That's fantastic. Any plans for the prize money that you won, or is it?
I mean, first I have to pay some taxes to the US, I think, to get them out of the US. And then I have to pay taxes to Norway. So in the end, it's not that much left of the 100,000. So I think I just have to be wise and then invest or save them, and maybe I want to move out, because I'm still living with my parents when I'm back home. So I'm not, or I haven't moved out yet. So I guess I have to looking for somewhere to live.
But when it's a typical season, are you actually home much between camps? I know you guys train in Spain a fair bit, and then all your races around the world. I mean,
no, that's why I haven't moved out, because it would seem stupid to buy something, or especially rent something, and not be there. So when I'm buying something now, it's partly to live it myself, but also just to invest some of my money in a home.
Well, mate, it's just fantastic, and huge congrats. I know too well the tax ramifications of some of these big checks, but it's great that the sport has it. I think the PTO did a fantastic job in putting up, a really decent prize purse.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. And also that the money went so deep. It was really cool to see how much people fought for the top 20 place. Like to see the times between like 10 to 20 is like literally minutes there.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's ever been this close before. And I think, we can thank PTO for that, because everyone was just fighting for every place to get like slightly higher prize money. So it was really cool to see.
It is fantastic. I remember we once had the High V triathlon in Des Moines, Iowa, and that you qualified for, and they had the top 30. And I remember 30th place got paid $3,000 or whatever. So everybody got a paycheck that if you qualified, you won. And I really think that's a fantastic way to do it if you can make it happen. Obviously, you got to have the huge prize purse to pay out and make it happen. But I do like that look, if you qualify for this event, it's basically, rather than appearance money, here you go, finish the event and you'll be on your way. So I think it's fantastic. What I'd like to do is just tell us, learn a little bit more about you and your background. I know you're only 24, but let's wind the clock back just a little way. And when did you first sort of find your passion for endurance sports?
I think it's basically been there my whole life. So I really love just being outside. So I'm living in outside of Bergen, and we have some beautiful mountains here. I have like trails for many miles just outside my door. And we have like the fjords. We have so many beautiful sceneries. So I always enjoyed being outside, especially running in the mountains and cycling. But I think running in the mountains was like my number one thing when I first started endurance sports. So, but I started as actually a professional, or not professional cyclist. I started as a cyclist when I was 9, because my older brother and sister was doing it. So of course I had to do it myself. And before I started cycling myself, I just had to look at them race, and that was extremely boring. I had to like sit down with my parents watching them race, and I couldn't do it, and I was so jealous. So that's how I started.
I love that. And then when you started biking, you had the running around you. When was it that you sort of realized, hang on, I'm actually reasonably good at this? Was there a point in time that kind of clicked?
I have been a talent my whole life, actually. So right from the start from cycling, I was really good. And I had multiple second places in the youth national championship in cycling. I never won, but I have like extremely many second places. So kind of bitter that I didn't win, but at least the podium it's still okay.
Yeah. And was it always road cycling, or were you a mountain biker?
Only road cycling.
Yeah. And in Norway, is it Tor Hushoff who's the legend up there, right? Do you know him? Is he a friend of yours now?
No, I don't know him personally, but he has been like a huge hero my whole life. So he was a very big inspiration when I was younger.
That's awesome. And okay, so you've realized that you've got some ability here. When did you decide to find triathlon and 100% commit to the sport?
It was when I realized that to become as big as a star as Tor Hushovd and like winning Tour de France or something, I had to only ride my bike, and I couldn't really run anymore, because I thought like cyclists, they don't run, they only ride a bike. And I didn't want to only ride my bike, because I enjoyed running as well. So instead of like retire from a running, I instead found triathlon and decided to learn how to swim as well.
Is that when I had Khristian on, he spoke about Arlid, your coach Arlid's, how do I pronounce that? Sveiten, thank you. It seemed to me that it was almost like a program was put in place and then sort of reached out to find athletes to come in. Is that how it worked?
Yeah, so that was how I found out about triathlon. So the national federation invited to like an open gathering for all the youth in Norway who could possibly think of becoming a triathlete. So I think we were like 20 youngsters all shipped to Oslo to have a weekend together. And out of that one weekend, we have so many athletes there. So it was a huge thing to do, like just select those random youngsters to come over, and then something good came out of it. Both me, Khristian, my brother, and Lotte Milla, and Casper Stornes. He came the year after, but he started there. So like basically all the athletes came from there.
It's incredible because, when I was coming through the sport, it was we didn't really hear too much about Norway and Norwegian athletes in the sport. And then it was kind of like Khristian Blumenfeld, who's this guy? And he starts to charge towards the front in some of these ITU races, and we start to get this little whiff. And then come 2018, when you guys, was that the year you guys went 1, 2, 3? Was it 2018? It was. You went 1, 2, 3 at the World
in Bermuda.
And you guys, that in itself really was like, okay, we're here. Did you feel like that was the statement that, okay, now Norway's truly here when the three of you went on that podium?
Yeah, that was the team statement. Before that, we had Khristian really performing at a high level, and I was somewhat up there. I had won a couple of World Cups, but nothing big, like in terms of like the international stage. So when it first came there with the 3 Norwegian guys on the podium, that was when the team had a breakthrough for sure. So it was a testament to our training program and our team that we could do that.
Yeah, I think, back before the World Triathlon Series started, we had the World Cup, and as Australians, we had quite a few 1, 2, 3s at, whether it be in Tisivvaras in Hungary or wherever we went, we had a kind of a dominating time there for a while. But I believe you guys were the first, once it's changed its name to the World Triathlon Series, you guys were the first country to go 1, 2, 3. Am I right? I think the women have done it.
Yeah, on the male side, we were the first. So the Norwegian team was going to be the first to do that. That's pretty.
I think that's
strange.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
I think it's phenomenal. And I guess looking forward, when it comes to the mixed relay at the Olympics for the first time, what's it like with, well, obviously you got to pick the 2 men that are going to race, not 3. And you guys, like you said, you got yourself, Khristian and Casper, that seem to be the 3 standout. And then you've also got to find your women, and your young women are actually starting to show some potential. You actually could have a very strong team come the Olympics.
Yeah, I think we surprised ourselves with our Hamburg performance just outside of the podium. It was, I didn't believe that we had it in us to pull that off. So it was one of the coolest things that I've done this year to race the team there, especially like, we did some team races before, but we always struggled to not be lapped because we had some not too strong girls on the team, or not. They were just like really fresh in triathlon, so we just like throw them in the relay just to race the race, even though they weren't ready to do a relay on that level. So to come fourth in Hamburg, that was so cool. So that showed that we actually have a potential to do something in Tokyo with 1 more year of training.
Well, I think that was one of the benefits of having this year being, having the Olympics move back a year is countries like yourself, you get the extra year to keep developing. And that was actually evident, come Hamburg, where you guys did have that 4th place. I think was absolutely fantastic. And then in 2019, mate, let's go forward there a little bit. 2019 seemed to be just your year, where again you got 3rd at the WTS in Bermuda, and then you went there on this string where you got 4th at the Tokyo test event. Did that qualify you immediately for the Olympics for Norway?
No. So we have like not any results that can make you able to race. So we have like the Olympic committee that decides by themselves who is going to race. But I think it's quite obvious that it's going to be me, Khristian, and Casper, unless something crazy is happening the next year.
And were you surprised with that race in Tokyo? They said, it was very hot, extreme conditions. Were you prepared for the heat?
I surprised myself somewhat because I didn't really have the best shape going into the training camp, the last training camp we did before the race. So we were first in Font-Romeu in the Pyrenees, training there. and I got dropped by basically everyone on the swim sets, on the bike sessions, and on the run sets. And I wasn't feeling too great. And I came to Japan, I think 10 days before or something, to prepare for the heat. And I wasn't in great shape there either, but at least we did a heat prep perfectly. I think we couldn't do the heat prep any better. So despite my general shape being quite lacking, I still was able to get fourth. So I surprised myself a bit. And I think with the right preparation, I should be able to bump up the fourth to something even better next year.
Good man. Hopefully. Good man, of course. And when you say perfect heat prep, you just mean the amount of days that you had there, or what were you doing specifically in terms of heat prep?
I mean, I have to have some secrets going into.
Fair enough.
But, yeah, we had both just spending the days there. Like, that's obviously the most important thing. Just have some time in the heat, because you can't only do like smart heat training. You have to actually be in the heat, or else you won't be able to perform. But also, of course, you can't let the heat prep get in the way for the good sessions. So if you're too tired from all the heat to be able to form on the hard sets, then like the heat prep isn't as effective either, because you're losing quite of the general fitness. So I think you find a good balance between getting used to the heat and also having high enough quality on harder training.
Well, it's kind of like if you get yourself very fit, it's amazing how you can handle all the other variables so much easier, right? I mean, and the problem with adding too many variables into your training, whether it be heat prep or altitude training or whatever it is, it can just sap the body, excuse me. So it's kind of balancing that really well. And I think you guys seem to be doing that. You get tested a lot, right? You guys are doing a lot of research and testing every few weeks.
Yeah. So I think the testing part is one of the reasons why we can do the heat prep as good as we did it, because even though we didn't do any testing in Japan, we still had a lot of controls during our training. So we have like lactate and temperature measurements and everything. So even though the temperature was high, we still knew exactly how hard the body was being pushed. We couldn't just rely on like heart rate, because obviously the heart rate is going to raise when the temperature is rising. So we tried to control as many variables as we could with as many like devices we could find to just stick in your body. So I had a lot of trips on the bathroom to insert the temperature pills.
I love that. Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess that's the whole point of a test event too, isn't it? I mean, you want to come out, you want to leave the test with as much information as possible to get ready for the actual games.
Yeah, and that was actually one of the things I did with the test event. I didn't want to make it a safe race for myself. I wanted to explore my body and how it would react. So on the bike, I rode so much harder than I normally would do in this type of event. And not because I was that far behind up the water, but even when I was in a group, I was constantly in the front, constantly pushing pretty high powers. And when I got in a front group, I was still pushing in the front. So I think that was one of the things that has made me ready for the next year's real deal, because I was really pushing it out there.
Yeah, well, I think all of that information is going to go with you beyond even Tokyo Olympics next year. Potentially, your longer course racing, Ironman, whatever it is. I think all of that information, you just start, you start adding it all up. That knowledge that you're generating is just so invaluable going forward. Then the next race was it 2 weeks later? You're now in the grand final of the World Series in Lausanne. And again, you put together a magnificent performance. You came fourth there again, right?
Yeah. And still, I wasn't feeling my greatest, especially on the bike there. I was kind of struggling to just stay in the front pack. But I had a good swim for being me, so I didn't have to chase too much on the bike. And on the run, I was on and off the first group, kind of struggling, but in the end, I managed to find some leg speed and finish in fourth, which was great, but it was so good to see Khristian finally take his win after so many like podium finishes after so many years. He finally took his win, so that was so cool to see.
I'm with you. I was so excited to see the guy that's just been there for so many years, and he's finally, when he kind of slowly just edged away from Mario and Vincent, and I was like, finally, he looks like he's going to have the
way to do it. The first like 3Ks, he was running like stupidly fast, and then he decided like, nah, I'm not gonna run this pace the whole way. Slow down, let them get to his feet, and then just running like hard again to just drop them. I was so funny to see. Not for me in the race, but like afterwards, it was funny to see.
Yeah, well, you would have had a pretty good bird's eye view at each of the turns around. You would have seen exactly how he looked or how he felt. And were you yelling out for him or anything, or do you just focus on yourself?
No. But I actually I tried to give him a high five on the last like 180, because then I knew like he was gonna win, and I'm giving out my hand, but he just ignores it and runs straight past. That was a bit awkward, but it was okay. He did win, so it was okay.
Yeah, you're like, hang on.
I got it afterwards, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, no, I'm just waving. I didn't want a high five either. No. But then
it was before we knew about Corona, so...
Yeah, but we were allowed to touch each other back then. I remember those days. Yeah. And then, but the beautiful story to all of that is then, you've had these couple of fourths at some of the biggest events of 2019 for the World Series, and then you're off to Nice, and that was the following week, if I'm correct, right? Was it the following week? Yeah, it was the following week, Nice, France. You decide to ride a road bike at 70.3 World Champs. What was the sort of thought process on that?
I think it was the only wise choice I could make by choosing my road bike, because obviously it was 1 week later and we had to travel, and I didn't really have too much time to adjust to my TT position. So, and also, of course, the race course in Nice was absolutely insane with all the uphills and downhills and everything. So it was a rumor saying like I didn't have a TT bike. That's not true. I actually had a TT bike. The problem with a TT bike is that it didn't have any brakes. And to ride a TT bikes without any brakes on that course would be suicide.
What do you mean it had no brakes?
It didn't have any functioning brakes. So when I rode it in Bahrain last year, or in 2018, I had like a half functioning front brake. But that course didn't really matter because it was back and forth almost, or a bit on a Formula 1 track, but I didn't really need my brakes. And I tried to fix them, and my brother tried to fix the brakes, but it didn't work. So then I just choose my road bike instead.
And it really didn't matter. Like you said, with the course being so dramatically climbing and then descending, the road bike must have felt absolutely fantastic compared to a TT bike. Is that, that's where you really tended to make up a lot of time in that race? Yeah,
so people were making out this to be a huge thing, like riding a road bike instead of a TT bike. But the aero road bikes now are getting insanely aerodynamic, and with the disc brakes and everything, I don't think it's too much of a difference like in the frames between like a TT bike and a road bike. But of course the position is like night and day. But I had a pretty good position on my road bike, especially when I had like this long aero bars on. So I think the difference wasn't that big. But if I was going all in for only that race, and I had like unlimited access to all the equipment, I think I would choose a TT bike on that course also.
Still, yeah. Now, when you got off the bike there and Alistair Brownlee is with you, I mean, multiple gold medalist, basically one of the greatest we've ever seen do the sport. What was your mindset when you headed out onto the run?
I was really positive the first K, because then I had a slight lead. Because I had a really fast T2 compared to Ali and Rudy.
Yeah.
So then I was feeling quite okay. But in the first aid station, he came blasting past me. He didn't even stop for drinks or anything. I was just like, okay, I need some energy and water. I'm going to run a half marathon now. But he just like, nope, just ran straight past me. I hadn't chance to hold his back, so I just let him go, and I saw him like increasing the lead step by step. And I kind of settled to second place is also quite okay behind the double Olympic champ. So I was kind of like, yeah, second is also quite good. But then my brother on the sideline came up and he said, Alistair has blown up before. Don't give up. Just like keep going. And I was thinking, yeah, it's true. He has blown up before. So if I kind of try to push him a bit, maybe I could take him in the end. And then when I went to I think it was like 6K into the run, and I started to gain massively on him and getting up to his back and then just running past him and gaining a lot of time for only like 50 meters before a 180 turn. I knew that I had a shot of the victory.
Was it a conscious decision when you run up onto the shoulder of Alistair? Were you thinking, okay, do I run here for a little bit? Do I surge? What was your thought there?
My plan was to catch him before the headwind, because it was light headwind going back to the finishing chute. Mm-hmm. So I had a plan just to be in his back there. But he had a weird running pace. Like it was kind of like a pretty fast pace, but not as hard as I wanted. And also his stride, I think his stride was longer than mine. So I had to really watch out being in his back because it didn't match with my running technique. And I'm not like used to running behind him. I mostly just run behind Khristian. And he has like he has a really high frequency and a really like short legs. So I can run really close up to him without him touching my feet. But with Ali, he had like a longer stride and was like really hard actually to run behind him, because I felt like he was going to kick me all the time. So instead of like trying to relax behind him, I just went for it straight away.
Isn't it funny? Like you get so used to getting into somebody's rhythm, your training partners or whoever it is, and you start to run behind somebody. And Alistair, I mean, he is 6'1", I think. I mean, he's actually quite tall. Yeah. You know, you don't. I don't know. My wife, you know, we were up watching you guys, you know, at Daytona, and she's like, I didn't realize you were so tall. You know, like I don't know what it is when you're watching it on TV or whatever, and then in person, you know, he is actually 6'1" or whatever.
Yeah, and it could be really long sometimes.
And isn't it funny how if you're running behind somebody that just doesn't have the same kind of stride, it just upsets your own rhythm.
It's really hard to relax. It's actually hard to relax, even though it's like slight advantage to be in the back. It's harder to relax, and therefore you kind of lose more energy in the end anyway.
Yeah, so you just went straight around him, and was there a surge then? Was it like a conscious, okay, let's go for it for 500 meters or something?
No, not really. It was kind of like a small acceleration going past them, but not really a surge.
Mm-hmm. And then that was it. You felt good the whole rest of the run, and suddenly you're a world champion. How did your life change after that world championship?
It really changed. It was unbelievable how much more attention it was for me winning there than like anything I ever done before. I was so lucky that I signed with my manager Adam the week before in Lausanne. Because I got so many requests from like media, from sponsors, from like everyone wanting something, and I just said to them, I don't do any of that. Just talk with my manager, and he will like sort things out. Because I had like no media training or anything, so I didn't really know how to tackle all of that stuff. So it was quite new for me.
A quick mini break. I really want to encourage you to do something special for yourself and sign up to Athletic Greens and get a free year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase by visiting athleticgreens.com/Greg. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/Greg. Yeah, you seem very comfortable though. I mean, obviously you've had a year now of practice, but you're quite comfortable to talk about your racing and what you've done. And
it's okay to talk about myself and everything, but to decide like who to talk to and not do too much of everything, and contracts and everything, and realize what's your worth. I think that's the hardest part. I think I just would have signed the best deal that came first. Like the first deal that came to me, I'm taking it. Like, let's take the money and roll. But he has like a bit more smartness to him, so I think he get more my worth out of it.
That's brilliant, and that's a constant, by the way. I for my own career, and I know, hanging out with Chris McCormack and Craig Alexander, you go on long bike rides, and we'd all be trying to figure out what is the worth, what is the value right now, and it's a constant changing, and you want to talk to your mates, but you can't really talk dollar numbers or anything because you can't, you're not allowed to do that. And so you're just always trying to figure out, well, what is my worth if I'm going to talk to this bike company? Well, what is a normal bike salary? And you don't know if you're being taken advantage of or not. So I appreciate that. And who did you end up signing with for bikes? Was it Giant, right?
Yeah, Giant. And it's kind of multiple reasons why I signed with Giant. Firstly, because of course the bikes are great, and I absolutely love the Propel. So that's what I've been riding this year. Also, the relationship with Taiwan I got now. So
yeah, tell me about that, because that's a funny little side story, and I know you've told it a few times, but please share it.
Yeah, that's why I brought up Taiwan, because I wanted to tell it again. So
yeah, good.
So while I was winning in Nice, I had this strange-looking hat on me. A hat that I found in Japan, and I just started using it without really knowing where it was from or what it was saying. It was Taiwanese writings on it. So the finishing pictures of me holding the banner up, smiling, kind of screaming, that went viral in Taiwan because of my hat. And the hat just said like a location for a temple in Taiwan. So the hat is from a temple there. And the temple is actually located like 50 km from the Giant headquarters.
Wow.
So when I went viral in Taiwan, the marketing director, or what you can call it, they said like, we really want to sign Gustav. So that's one of the reasons why I signed with Giant, because I had like a good connection even before we signed the contract, and before we even started working together. I felt we had a connection there.
That's a brilliant story. I love that. I love that it all just came together, that here you are just picking up a hat on the roadside. All of a sudden you're winning 70.3 world champs with it. You go viral in Taiwan, which in itself is comical. I love that. And then you get Giant, who's based in Taiwan, so the world's biggest bike company, says, oh, we want you on our books. I just think that's a brilliant little story. And now, are you a little bit superstitious with that hat? Is that hat now got to be with you for the rest of time?
No, I don't want to say I'm superstitious, but I feel like it's a really cool thing. And it's not just like something I do for publicity or something. It's just like, it's actually a really cool story. And,
it is.
I constantly check like, because the hat has its own hashtag or like the location. So I sometimes go into to check how things are going down there on the location tag. And I have like, it's multiple people still visiting the temple every day and like posting pictures. And the temple has a picture of me outside of it. And it's really cool to see how like the community has changed because of my victory in this. So they have actually sold or given away 170,000 of these hats there. And to just think how many people that actually is like, it's a whole city.
Wow.
And it's people coming from all over Taiwan to have like a pilgrimage to that temple, cycling, and just pick one up and bring them good luck or like inspiration to train or do triathlon. So it's not something that is about myself anymore. I think the temple hat is more like, it's something you do to do better in sport, to motivate yourself to train more or to do better in competition.
Gee, that's brilliant. You must have visited the temple yourself when you signed with Giant. Did you do that?
Yeah. So I both visited the temple and I actually got the honorary citizenship of Taiwan.
Wow. Is that right?
Yeah. So I have like the plaque hanging above my bedside, reminding me constantly that I have been in Taiwan, and I have honorary citizenship there. So
My goodness.
yeah.
That is absolutely, what a great story. And I mean, you wore the hat again in Daytona, I saw. That was fantastic.
Yeah,
Was
so
there
my manager has like hold off my head sponsor. So because obviously the head is quite valuable in terms of sponsorship because that's on every picture.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I said like maybe we shouldn't sign anything until something really huge is coming because I really want to enjoy my relationship with Taiwan as long as possible. So I'm
You're a
still
good
free
man.
to wear what hat I want. So I
Well,
really
you're a good
enjoy that
man.
story. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, well, I love the fact that you've got a good manager and you'd signed him the week before. It just felt like everything fell into place at the right moment at the right time, and all of that is just such a great story. And then you were able to generate some decent income through some endorsements. Now you've backed all of that up because a lot of athletes can have that world championship and then almost struggle to ever repeat or have another moment like it. But you've now done that by winning Daytona. So now there's that, I don't know, sometimes there's a little bit of an intrinsic pressure that we put on ourselves to
Yeah, I
reperform.
actually felt that quite a lot because even though my performance in the World Series or World Cup this year has been stable, it hasn't been at the highest level. I haven't really won anything big this year, except a local triathlon in Germany that I was invited to race, the Ratingen Triathlon. But other than that, I didn't really win anything. So I was kind of feeling bad almost that I have tricked my sponsors into signing me after one good race. And that I didn't like maybe deserve the deal that I got. But it was really good to repeat it in Daytona and really show that I'm here to stay.
Yeah, I mean it's very normal to feel that way. I think you're still so young. Over this next 10 to 15 years, there's going to be moments where you feel an intrinsic pressure to perform again and again, or whatever. But I think by getting that first big win back after sort of the initial big win a year ago, I think often is what it takes to go, okay, I do belong here. I am allowed to be here, and I am worthy of being here. So I think it's great that you got that win. And was there much of a trend happening in Taiwan after you win in Daytona? Did the broadcast make it there?
Yeah. So of course they now they have the eye on me for what I'm doing out there in the big world. So I think it got some attention over there as well this time.
You seem, for 24, you're very confident. Were you always this confident, or has that just come through hard work and just getting feedback from your performances?
I have sadly always been this confident. So,
don't be sad about it.
Yeah, because I come across as arrogant sometimes.
No.
My confidence can be a bit too much in some cases, especially for the ones who is not like really into sports. And to be like me and talk about, I'm going to win Daytona is like, you just said you're going to win Daytona. How are you going to say that? Like, because I really think I'm going to win. But I think like the arrogance can be a bit bothersome for some. But if you're in like the sports environment, I think it's just like, it's just confidence. It's not something you try to be smug about. Yeah.
Well, I think it's a very fine line. I think sometimes there's confidence and arrogance. And it was funny when I had Jan Frodeno on the show and we were talking about this same kind of thing. And I'll never forget that I met Jan's mum at a race in Mexico in 2006 or 7 or something. And we had a lovely time on the beach after the race. I think both Jan and I had terrible races, but we had a lovely time. And anyway, Jan tells me later, oh, my mum thought you were really arrogant before she met you on the beach in Mexico. And I said, why? Why would she think I'm arrogant? Because I really didn't ever feel like I was a confident or arrogant person. He said, well, when you won Hamburg in, was it 2002 or whatever, you came across the line and you said, that was easy. And I didn't mean it like it was easy. I just meant the body had turned up. Do you know what I mean? Like you have those performances where the body turned up.
Yeah.
But for a number of years, she thought I was this arrogant whatever. But it was just that I had felt very confident in the way I'd raced, and it had come across on the broadcast that I was arrogant. So it is a very fine line.
It's even harder now because so much of the communication outwards goes through social media and written text. And to like communicate how you actually feel through written text in a short sentence on Instagram, it's really hard. So I often have to like moderate myself on Instagram because I want to write something I think is kind of borderline funny, arrogant kind of thing. But when I read through it or send it to my mates and like, is this okay to write? They're like, no, this is way too over the line. And I think one of the best examples was last year before Nice. I wrote, guess the winner of the race tomorrow and win a signed poster from the winner, parenthesis, me. So I announced myself as a winner the day before the race. And I asked my brother, you think this is okay to write? And I was like, no, I don't think so. But I was like, this is too funny to let go. I have to post it anyway. And then, of course, it went like really good and everything went okay. But if I didn't win, I think it would be kind of strange to post something like that.
Well, I think it can come across arrogant if you don't know you. Do you know what I mean? Like once you know the person, you can hear the humor, you can hear the parody that's happening. But it's funny, my wife Laura and I are constantly analyzing everything we put on social media. And the amount of times I've actually had to start a notes section on my phone for everything I want to write on social media, but I don't dare saying, but I have to write it down just because it's in my brain. So I have this whole thing. It's called things I want to say, but I'm not allowed to say. and because I have my wife Laura to run things by. You have your brother, and it's kind of like, okay, maybe I shouldn't say that, but boy, I really, really want to. It's a harder world for you now in the sense that when a lot of us came through, you won a race, you got a magazine cover, and that was it. You're on your way. Now it's, you guys, you really almost need to have your own little media team around you. I mean, I know a lot of athletes do employ full-time people to run their social media pages and things. Are you having to do that, or how's that working for you?
Luckily for me, I actually really enjoy Instagram. I enjoy like coming up with fun text to write, and I enjoy taking pictures and editing them. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a huge plus for me because Instagram is not something I do for work or only for sponsors. It's something I actually love. And I think or hope at least that it kind of shines through my content that I want to post this. It's not just something that my sponsors say you have to post. So I hope like I'm a good follow on Instagram. But in regards of hiring my own like media team, I haven't really gone that far. But my brother loves taking photos. I love taking photos. So I'm supplying the whole national team of Norway with pictures when we're on training camp.
Oh, is that right?
So basically all of Khristian's pictures from Instagram are taken by me.
Is he giving you credit for those?
Yeah, he's giving me credit.
All right.
Yeah. So it's not like some secret thing. It's I really enjoy taking photos. One time it kind of went wrong. I wanted to award myself a new camera with the prize money. I haven't won yet. So I think it was 4 days before the World Series in Abu Dhabi. I went to a photo store there, and I was like, okay, I'm going to win some prize money in a few days. I might just buy this camera. And then I think I came like 21st, like the first spot without any prize money. So it's been that's like a curse for me now. I can't spend any prize money before I actually won it, even though I was in great shape and I really thought I was going to perform there. So
that's hilarious.
No, I'm not going to spend any of my prize money before I actually won them.
No, fair enough. I think that's probably a good philosophy for all of us, by the way. Don't spend money you don't have, people.
You're welcome. That the tip was for free.
Yeah, that tip was free. Now, your followers on social media have really accelerated, right? I mean, before 70.3 World Champs last year, how many followers did you have on Instagram?
I think around 7,000. So decent, but not too much. And now it's like 50 plus something. Yeah.
50 plus, and it's only going to go up. It's only going to go up. It's I think
I hope they don't unfollow me. That would be sad.
No, they only do that when you get political or something. That's usually, and Instagram Twitter's the one where people defollow if you say anything or do anything stupid, which some of us have done accidentally. Yep. But I mean, going forward, looking at 2021 coming up, it looks like you're on the Olympic start line. You've already qualified for Kona, correct? And did I hear that you don't have to validate? Is that right?
Yeah, so because of in the start I had to validate in after my victory in Nice, because I of course wanted a half distance, and to do like the whole distance and everything you have to do a validation race, which is just to finish a race, not to perform there. Yeah. But because of COVID and before they postponed the race, they said you don't need a validation race. So Kona was supposed to be my first race in 2020. Then, of course, they postponed it first to February, I think.
Yep.
And then now, of course, they have it in the normal time in October. So they took away the validation, and now it seems like Kona will be my first full distance Ironman.
That's brilliant. And so, you're gonna how are you gonna plan out next year when you're looking at the season?
I will try to follow as much as I can of the World Series going into Tokyo. Perform as best as I can in Tokyo, and then after Tokyo I will have my full attention for Kona, I think, because we have this World Cup in Bergen, my hometown, and I really want to do well here also, but I also want to really perform in Kona, so I think all my energy will go towards Kona. Yeah.
What's the date? Is the Bergen World Cup close to?
I think it's end of August, so not the greatest of. I was hoping it could be a bit earlier for my part, but we need we need to have a good time slot for the international athletes to come to Bergen also, and we can't have it too late because Bergen is going to be freaking cold if you have it too late. So,
what about 70.3 Worlds next year? Would you worry about that one?
Yes. I think I will try to make both happen, but the Kona, I think, will be my main priority after the Olympics.
Good on you. So in terms of your physical training, now that you've had a big race for the year, you're having a bit of a break right now through Christmas. You then, what's in terms of physical training? What's that look for you like building up now over the next few months?
So I think I had 3 sessions in Daytona now, and I have 4 days left of both my quarantine and my season break. So Saturday will be my first day in the pool for, I think 12 days. So that's going to be interesting to get back there. But my progression now in training is kind of slow. I have allowed myself to really rest this time. Last year I didn't really have any rest after Nice because I was also preparing for the Super League, which came after. And in 2018 I didn't really have any season break either. So this year I have 10 days with like really season break.
Gee, that's not much though, mate. In fairness, you're 24, and when we were 24, it was kind of we'd race in Australia for 10 to 15 times, and then go on the World Series for 10 to 15 races around the world. So we basically did back-to-back seasons most of the time when we were younger, but we were living always in warm. In the off season, Australia was kind of happening, and then we would go north for the rest of the year. What about, with Khristian and Casper? Are they on the same schedule as you then?
No. So Casper had a season break much earlier because he had a slight foot injury, which is better now. And Khristian also had this foot injury, so he took his season break while he was in Bahrain. So they already have like some weeks on me when I go back to training, so they will probably smash me in the start. But
I think it'll come back for you. It'll come back. And what I want to tell you is how impressed I am actually with how well you are swimming for somebody who did start swimming a bit later than a lot of the other guys. Because you didn't start swimming till you were about 15, 16. Is that right?
Or late 14. I started
late
swimming.
14. Yeah. I think you've just almost, I think about it, you've almost just started your swimming in time before becoming an adult. Do you know what I mean? I think it's harder for the ones that once you become a full adult and then, your muscles are tight and you're trying to find that flexibility and things. And so, your swimming now would you regard yourself as kind of a first pack swimmer, at the back of the first pack swimmer in a World Series race now?
I think the problem with my swimming is that it's too unreliable. At my best, I am not a bad swimmer. But sadly, I had days like Leeds last year, which was an absolute disaster. I was so far behind everyone else, and it was so bad. And I can't even realize why I swam that bad because, I am okay swimmer sometimes. So that's my problem now, to get my swim like on a more reliable performance. Because it's really hard to know how I can build up the races, since my swim is just like a cost of toy, I feel. Because even though I'm good in the pool and good like in open water sessions, when I got to races, I'm still like either almost in first group straight away or far behind.
Is there a preference over wetsuit versus non-wetsuit?
No, not really. I'm kind of comfortable with both. Yeah.
Well, I think always for me, to get the swimming consistent, a lot of it was just getting in the open water as much as possible and just belting out 1500s, or I always, towing a towel around the ankle and that kind of stuff to really build up the strength. That if I maintained good towel strength pulling in either in the pool or the open water for 2 to 3K straight hard efforts and things, then I always felt like I could go to a race and sprint and grab water and always felt pretty consistent with it. But I think it'll also come for you, like it's just this, once you get so fit in the bike and run, that it almost just has to come. How's your get out speed? Have you got good, first 100-meter get out speed?
No, I think that's one of my problems. I'm quite slow actually in the water, especially. But on the run, I have quite a good speed. On the bike, I don't have too much power, but I mean, we don't need to push that 1400 watts on the bike anyway.
No.
And on the swim, I am lacking a bit of speed also.
Yeah. Well, it'll come for you, I'm sure. What about, when you get back into training here, are you back straight into the lab? Are you guys going to get tested right away and you kind of set some base levels?
Yeah. So after Christmas, like in the start of January, we're going to have the tests. So I don't have too high hopes being out training so much now, especially not on a swim. But hopefully we have a good baseline test and I'm able to push through the whole weekend, because we actually have a quite hard test. So it's not just something that you can do without any training, to just go straight into our test regime, because we have a really hard and long test: bike Friday, swim Saturday, and run Sunday. So over these 3 days, we have like more than a race weekend of high intensity.
So straight away.
I'm worried that my general fitness is too low to even get through the weekend, but we'll see. Hopefully I will manage.
Well, I think it's always good to start the year with kind of low tests, because then you can only improve. Yeah. If you come out of the gun swinging, it's kind of like, oh, well, now I can only really, where am I going to go?
I'm maintaining from now on, and that's boring to just maintain your ability. For sure.
That's great. Yeah, I know. I mentioned those tests because when I did have Khristian Blumenfeld on, and he was saying that you guys were getting tested about every 6 weeks or something. Is that about right? Are you guys still doing that much testing?
Yeah, especially during like training season during the winter, because then we have the time. It's hard to maintain it during race season, obviously, because then we're outside in the world, not have access to the lab. So then we do some toned down version of the test, just wherever we are, with like this oxygen mask over Bluetooth to the phone, and some simpler versions of it. But we try to have like this 6-week schedule.
Well, Khristian said that he's had a VO2 test score of 89 or 90, I think he said.
That's old numbers now.
That's old numbers.
Yeah, constantly improving,
You can even go higher. What about yours?
I think my PR is 92 now. Yeah.
Get out. Running, right? You wouldn't be able to do that on the bike, would you?
That's on the bike, yeah.
That was on the bike?
Because you can mobilize more power on the bike, because you can recruit more muscles when you have like this set power to hold the, like when you're sitting down and engaging the whole muscle in the leg, you're engaging more muscles than while running. Because when you're running, you only have like the full muscle engagement when you are on the ground, not when you're like in the air. So that's why you can have a higher VO2 max on the bike than during the run.
That's interesting. I know. Have you got to the point, because you guys get tested so much, that you're actually figuring out how to work the test to get these higher numbers?
You can cheat it, but then my test, like the test responsible, he'd get mad. So you can cheat it by like holding your breath for like 15 seconds and then breathe more. But you get instantly, he knows it straight away. He just looks at the data and just like, you cheated. So yeah, of course, if you want just like this bragging numbers, you can cheat the test. But what's the point?
But these are some of the highest numbers ever recorded. You realize that?
Yeah, I know.
There wouldn't be many athletes in the world that are getting anywhere near that.
No. So that's why we're doing the test, because we still want to know how to perform even higher. And I think it's getting harder and harder now to find ways to improve. But when we're doing these kind of tests, we know what works and what doesn't work. So we're not stuck like half a year do some training that doesn't make us better.
Just for people listening, just so you have an idea, an average man's VO2 max is around 60. All right. Generally speaking, a reasonable professional endurance athlete would be over probably 78 minimum, but 78 to 85 is probably has you in on the world stage and doing fairly well. So when we hear numbers high 80s and low 90s, we really are talking about the super freaks of the world. So the fact that you and Khristian and what about Casper? Is he in the same kind of playing ground as you guys?
Slightly lower. So he is like mid to high 80s.
It's still phenomenal. At that point, I mean, you can't really do much more with your heart and lungs. I mean, it's about.
I think the oxygen consumption is like my limited factor in a triathlon. So I don't think like going to 100 or something like this is going to improve my ability to race faster. So I think it's more like race smartness and swim speed, especially, and
it's like efficiency now. Yeah, it's really about efficiency. Yeah. Yeah, and that. What about your nutrition then? I mean, what did you eat during Daytona? Were you fueling much during that race?
It
was a 3-hour race, so I mean, it wasn't probably too much fuel needed, but
so I probably went a bit overkill on the nutrition, but I have trained quite hard on improving my ability to absorb carbohydrates during hard efforts. Mm-hmm. So I'm sponsored by this company called Morton, who is also helping like breaking all these marathon world records, because how it works is actually really interesting, and it's extremely mild to the stomach. So you can just drink as much as if you want. It's not going to absorb everything, but even if you drink like 200 grams of carbohydrates during an hour, it's not going to impact your stomach too much, because it's so mild. It's not like any other sports product I've used before. So during Daytona, I had about 110 grams of carbohydrates per hour of race time.
Wow, that is a lot.
Yeah, and that's including like the 30 minutes start of like the swim and the start of the bike where I didn't drink anything. So it was slightly higher the first half hour on the bike, maybe like even like a rate of 130 grams per hour.
Just for people who are listening, is we were often informed, basically a gram per kilogram of body weight was always a good indicator of what you should be taking in terms of carbohydrates.
So now like generally speaking, it's like 60 to 80 grams is like considered normal. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're taking 100, what'd you say? 110?
Yeah, 110. And it was more than I needed, I think. But it's always good to know what your what you're capable of.
Is it full of electrolytes as well, that Morton product?
Yeah.
What's
so
it? Sodium and potassium, magnesium.
Yeah,
What's
so
it look like?
it's a full sports drink. But the funny thing is, it has no taste, and it has no coloring. It has nothing except the bare minimum. And it comes in these bags, and one bag is one bottle. So it's really easy to know exactly how much you get of carbohydrates. So like you have one 750 or one 0.5 bottle, and you have 80 grams of carbohydrates if you manage to drink the whole thing. So it's the simplicity over it. It's extreme.
That's so good. There was one thing I didn't enjoy about Ironman and long course was having to figure out all the math and trying to, what have I had? What do I need to do? Yeah. And being focused more on the short course. It was one of the things I really didn't enjoy was trying to always
triathlon because we like math.
And yet we do, because it's kind of like you said, okay, I've got a minute lead, I've got 5K to go, we are doing math.
You have to convert $100,000 into Norwegian crowns. How much is that?
And then hang on, you forgot the tax rate and how much.
It's too much math.
Yeah, but I think that Morton product I think, and tell me if I'm wrong, but is Jan Frodeno using that and Javier Gomez? Are they both Morton?
Not Gomez, but Frodeno is using it.
Yeah. Okay. So you're on a good product then. If Jan's doing it, that's fantastic. Now, what about in general health and your day-to-day, nutrition? Are you supplementing with anything, specifically these days? And living in Norway, do you need to supplement with vitamin D and that kind of thing throughout the winter?
No, because I'm such a high amount in like sunny locations, so I don't really have like deficiencies in the D vitamins. But I have a deficiency in B12, so I have to take that one. But that's the only thing I take.
Yeah.
And also iron if I'm staying really high altitude, like in Sierra Nevada. That's 2,300 meters above sea level. Then I have to take some extra iron, like in this iron pills, or else you can get really tired really fast.
Are you guys working with because there is quite a stable team of you guys traveling and racing, and you live in Bergen together, in the same city together for most of the year? Do you guys have like a nutritionist or a chef or anybody that's traveling with you?
No, we haven't anyone is traveling with us, but we have like the Olympic team who supplies the nutritionist and like taking care of us. So we have like experts on basically every aspect of the sports if we need it. Luckily for me, I have been extremely stable, like in bone density, in weight, in like being not sick. So I haven't had any special needs in like the nutrition department. I'm just like eating normal food, eating when I'm feeling for it, not like starving myself to death or eating when I'm not feeling for it. So I'm luckily I'm not high maintenance in that kind of department.
Well, you're built strong, but not big. Do you know what I mean? Like you to me, when I watched you raced in Daytona, and I actually saw you in the hotel lobby.
The picture is lying a bit because I am not that big, I think, but I agree. If you look at picture of me, I look kind of big.
No, not big. Not at all big. Yeah. No. I would just say strong. Like, how tall are you?
178. Yeah.
Okay, so just under 6 foot, 5'11", I think, right?
I think 5'10".
5'10". Yeah. But and then biomechanically though, you look so sound. So when you watch your foot striking the ground, there's no, massive pronation or anything else. You're quite stable. So I think with that, what I was trying to get at, I wasn't judging your weight by any means, more just saying you look like somebody that's going to maintain for a long time without breaking down. You have that look about you, and that's phenomenal to have. Craig Alexander is a similar kind of body structure, I would say, and he did all right for himself. And that's kind of how I look at you. You've got that kind of that raw biomechanics and that strength that, and once you get your swim up, God help everybody, I guess.
I actually feel the same. So I'm kind of like strongly built. So in the last 3 years, the only injury that I really had was from crashing my bike and bruising my rib cage.
Yeah, well, that's not fair. That's not a real injury. That's a crash.
That didn't even put me out of training. It was just like extremely painful, and I had to race with it during Super League. But other than that, I didn't really have any injuries. So it's crazy.
Awesome. Now, you mentioned your brother earlier. He's done all right for himself too, right? Is he still on the Norwegian program, racing triathlons as well?
Only as a coach, not as an athlete anymore.
Okay. But he's still quite a reasonable athlete himself, I believe. He did Ironmans, didn't he, at some point?
Yeah, I did long distance Ironman, but the level there is not that high, No, he did quite good. He did like 8:19 or something in his first full distance, so it's okay. Yeah.
8:19 is actually quite outstanding. There's a younger brother really beating up on his older brother. Good gracious.
If you knew how he trained, then like he's training not as he's teaching his athletes. He's just training at random. So
I know. It's so much easier to preach than it is to do yourself.
Yeah.
So you should do that.
It's quite good because I know like we have like endurance or talent in the family, because my brother obviously is really strong without training too much, and my mother was a really strong cyclist before. So I am aware that I have a talent and I'm not putting it to waste.
I love it, mate. It's been absolutely just so fantastic to just get to know you over this podcast. I actually did see you in the hotel lobby the day before the race up in Daytona, and I was like, oh, do I go up? I was like one of those fans, and I didn't want to do it. I had a baby in my arms as well, and it was a whole thing. We were checking in, so I didn't want to make a big thing of it. But I really do appreciate you coming on this show. Tell me a few places just before we go, for people listening, where would you recommend that people go experience training in the world? You've mentioned a few throughout this episode.
Me personally really enjoy Sierra Nevada in Spain, but I realize that is not a place for like a typical triathlete to train, because it's nothing to do there. And if you have like a wife or girlfriend who is not a triathlete and you yourself are a triathlete, it's like it's not possible to tell them to come there, because it's absolutely nothing except the training center up there. So if you want to have like a family vacation kind of thing together with the family and also train a lot, I enjoyed Thailand quite much, Phuket. So that's a good place to train. Surprisingly good for cycling, actually. I had thought that it would be just like a traffic chaos and like bad roads, but cycling there really surprised me.
I agree. I did the Phuket Triathlon a few times back, a long time ago, but I always thought it was an outstanding place to go for bikes, and even the running. I mean, it's definitely a hot and humid. You're in Southeast Asia. It's definitely cool, but it is I think that Phuket Triathlon, I think, is one of the best racecations I think you could probably do in the sport. So I love that part of the world. Mate, this has been such a privilege. I know you've been flat out. I know you've probably done several podcasts and had lots of interviews. You've probably retold the stories many times. We're all desperate to watch a race. We got to watch an outstanding one with you in Daytona, mate. So I just really appreciate you coming on, and I'm a huge fan. I'm really looking forward to your double next year with the Olympic Games, and then of course, Kona. I think you've got a massive year. Hopefully the world settles down and we get to see you in full form. So thanks so much for coming on, mate. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. And I don't mind telling the story one more time. I think it's really fun to talk about myself. So to give me an opportunity to talk about myself, I grab it. Yeah.
You're a good man. You're a very good man. And I get it. That's kind of why I started this podcast, actually. I'm like, a lot of guys like to actually tell a story or two. I don't mind if somebody's curious about my life too. So I kind of did it for that. So, mate, stay on the line. I really appreciate you coming on. This has been absolutely fantastic. For everybody listening, you can find all the show notes at bennettendurance.com/media. All right, mate. Cheers.
Thanks a lot for listening to Be With Champions. If you enjoyed the show, your support would truly be appreciated. You can visit the Be With Champions Patreon page, or you can subscribe with your podcast app of choice. Don't miss the next episode, so subscribe and be notified. For show notes, if you want to know more, please visit bennettendurance.com. I'm Phil Liggett, and on behalf of Greg Bennett, here's to the next time, and I hope you will join Greg again very soon.